That girl, a genius in the arts, is opening up a promising future. Her life is fulfilled with a billionaire father, but then a life-altering turning point changed everything, plunging the whole family into darkness. The appearance of Nia, who brought light, is a wonderful bond that breathed life into the Musa billionaire family and revived Amina's soul. If you're following this channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and let us know where you're watching from. Amina was the only daughter of billionaire Musa, a wealthy and powerful man who lived in a luxurious mansion in Lagos. She was a fine arts prodigy from a young age, known for her deeply personal paintings, always filled with profound emotion and soul. At just 16, Amina successfully held her first solo exhibition, and her name was soon honored in the art world, not only in Africa but around the world. Musa was proud of his daughter. He closely followed every step she took and was always willing to pay whatever it cost to help Amina nurture her talent. He firmly believed that Amina would one day change the world with her art. One day, Amina received an invitation to participate in a major art auction. She made plans to go out and promote her latest painting, a piece into which she had poured her entire heart and soul. Dressed in a pure white dress, she stepped out of the mansion with confidence, holding a fabric bag containing the precious painting. Musa stood at the window, watching his daughter with pride shining in his eyes. "Musa, my daughter, you're going to change the world with your art. I'm so proud of you." Amina smiled and waved at her father. "Amina, thank you, Dad. But you're the one who made me believe in this dream. I'm not going to stop, ever." One weekend afternoon, while Amina was riding her bike with friends, she was suddenly hit by an oncoming car. She was thrown to the ground, and the bicycle landed on her right arm. Passers-by quickly called an ambulance, and Amina was immediately taken to the hospital. When Musa received the phone call about his daughter's accident, it felt like his heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. He screamed into the phone, demanding to know her condition. In a single instant, his entire world collapsed. He rushed to the hospital, his heart heavy, his hands trembling, his eyes red with worry. When Musa arrived, the doctor only shook his head, his face grave. "Doctor, she's severely injured, especially her right arm. That arm may never fully recover. We'll do everything we can, but it's likely she will lose the ability to use it permanently." Musa said nothing. He just stood there, fists clenched. It felt as if his whole world had fallen apart. Amina, his only daughter, could no longer paint. She had lost her painting arm, the arm that had once created mesmerizing artworks that moved so many people. A little later, Musa stood beside Amina's hospital bed. She lay there, her right arm bandaged and immobilized, her eyes clouded over, devoid of hope or light. Amina tried to open her eyes, but all she could see was darkness. "Amina," weakly, "Dad, I can't draw anymore." Musa held her hand, his voice breaking, tears running down his face. "Musa, Amina, don't say that. I'll do everything to help you heal. You'll draw again, you'll never give up." Amina turned her face away, her eyes still full of tears. It felt like her entire world had fallen apart before her eyes. Her right arm, the very limb that helped her bring masterpieces to life, was now lifeless. "Amina, do you know what it feels like to be alive but already dead inside?" Musa stood frozen, unable to find any words to comfort his daughter. He looked at her, heart weighed down by sorrow, gripped by helplessness. He had never felt so powerless in his life. "Musa, I'll find a way. You won't live in darkness forever. Amina, I promise." But Amina no longer believed that promise. She turned her back to her father, sinking into despair. Her whole world, everything she loved and was passionate about, was now a pile of ruins beyond repair. No more art, no more painting. only a useless body and long nights full of tears. The mansion where Amina and Musa had once lived in happiness was now filled with cold silence. The paintings, the easels, the once colorful rooms were now still, dim, void of the light that once came from artistic passion. Amina no longer painted, no longer laughed or spoke. The entire mansion felt hollow, with only the sound of Musa's sighs echoing through the halls whenever he entered his daughter's room. Musa looked at one of Amina's old childhood paintings, and once again, tears fell from his eyes. He didn't know what to do. He just stood there, feeling as if he had lost a huge part of his life. Musa, softly, gazing at the painting, "You will paint again. I believe that, Amina. You'll find the light within yourself once more." Life in Musa's mansion continued in silence. Amina increasingly withdrew, not wanting to interact with anyone, doing nothing but lying in bed, staring blankly out the window. Musa couldn't focus on his work. He spent all his time caring for Amina, but each day, he only saw his daughter growing colder and more distant. He tried everything to help Amina regain her spirits. He hired the best psychologists, but none could make her smile or paint like she used to. Musa felt like he was facing an invisible wall, one he couldn't break through. Then, one morning, Musa decided to change the atmosphere in the mansion. Part of him felt that changing the staff might bring something fresh to the space. He instructed the housekeeper to find a new gardener, as the garden in front of the house had become chaotic and lacked the care it once had. The next day, a young girl appeared. Her name was Nia, the new gardener hired for the mansion. Nia came from a small village in northern Nigeria, with a poor background, but she carried with her a deep passion for plants and flowers. Nia had a special way of making everything around her come alive, as though each flower could tell a story. When Nia started working, she quickly noticed that the garden in the mansion was too wild and lifeless. She got to work renovating, replacing withering plants, and replanting flowers of every color. Particularly, she didn't just plant flowers but created colorful flower walls, from simple flowers like roses and chrysanthemums to tropical blooms, bringing a fresh and vibrant feel. While Nia worked, Amina quietly sat in her room, watching the garden from her window. For the first time in many days, she felt that something had changed in the space around her. Nia worked diligently, her hands swiftly trimming the plants, moving large flower pots without showing any signs of fatigue. Amina felt an odd attraction, though she didn't understand why. Perhaps it was the liveliness of the colors Nia brought to the garden. One morning, Amina decided to go outside, sitting in her wheelchair and moving through the garden. She saw Nia tending to the roses, smiling gently as she watched them bloom. Under the morning sunlight, the garden was full of vibrant colors, as if it were telling a story. Nia noticed someone watching her and looked up. When their eyes met, she smiled warmly. "Nia, do you think the garden looks better now? I've replaced all the flowers and trimmed the plants to keep it neat. This place needs a lot of love and patience." Amina silently looked at Nia. "It seems like you've brought new life to this garden. But why do you garden?" Nia shrugged and smiled softly. "It's just like painting, you know. Only instead of using a brush, I use my hands to care for each petal. Gardening feels like I'm painting on the ground. Each plant, each flower has its own story." Day by day, Amina began to go outside more often. She sat in her wheelchair, watching Nia work. She realized that Nia wasn't just caring for the plants but also nurturing her own soul and the souls of those around her. Every morning, Nia began her work with a bright smile, always cheerful, never seeming tired. One day, while Nia was trimming the lavender flowers, Amina couldn't hold back anymore. She called Nia over. "Amina, Nia, could I try painting again with my left hand?" "Nia, why not? Even though you can't use your right hand, you can still try painting with your left. Think of it as a new challenge for yourself." You might surprise yourself." Amina looked at Nia, and her heart suddenly warmed. Although Nia wasn't a painter, her encouraging words made Amina feel a small spark of hope. Perhaps not everything had ended. One morning, as Nia was tending to the yellow chrysanthemums, Amina decided to step into the garden. She sat under the shade of a frangipani tree, her eyes gazing at the beautiful flowers, and then she spoke. "Amina, do you garden because you love plants?" "Ania, plants are like people, you know. They need to be cared for, watered, and then they will bloom. The garden is where I find peace, even though I can't paint like you." Amina looked at Nia, unsure of what to say. Nia's words made her realize something. Maybe she didn't need to paint to experience life. A few days later, Amina tried painting again with her left hand. Her first painting, though clumsy, contained a freedom she hadn't felt since the accident. She found joy in painting again, even if it wasn't perfect. When Nia saw Amina painting in the garden, she smiled. "Ania, that's a beautiful painting, Amina. I believe one day you'll paint like you used to. You just need to believe in yourself." Amina looked at the painting, smiled faintly, and then put down her brush. She had found a new spark of hope in her life. With each passing day, Amina felt herself changing. She no longer lived in the darkness of sorrow as she once had. Nia's presence, the poor gardener, had slowly transformed her in ways Amina couldn't have imagined. Every time she saw Nia at work, Amina felt life returning to her heart. One afternoon, as Nia was tending to the garden, Amina decided to approach her and open up more. "Amina, Nia, thank you for everything you've done. Not just for the garden, but for me." Nia, smiling, "I'm just doing what I love. But you've given me the chance to see a different world. You're not the only one who's been hurt, Amina. We can all rise from pain." Amina fell silent, looking at Nia with eyes full of gratitude. She began to understand that healing doesn't always come in the way we expect. It comes from the people around us, from the small but meaningful things. One evening, Musa decided to invite Nia to dinner with the family. Nia happily accepted, and as they sat at the table, Musa began to talk to her. He didn't just thank Nia for helping the garden come back to life, but also mentioned the change he saw in his daughter. "Musa, Amina is no longer just the girl in the painting of the past. Thank you, Nia." Nia simply smiled, but in her eyes, Amina realized something important. Everyone can save each other, whether through a smile or a simple act. One afternoon, as Amina sat in the garden, holding a crayon and sketching a painting of the flowers Nia had planted, Nia approached her with some unexpected news. "Nia, softly, Amina, I need to go back home. My family is going through some difficulties, and I have to return to help." Amina looked up at Nia, surprised and worried. She hadn't thought that Nia would have to leave. Amina, anxiously, "No. Nia, you can't leave. You're the only one who helped me find myself again. I don't want to lose you." Nia, smiling, her eyes full of determination. "Don't worry, Amina. I'm not leaving you. I just need to go help my family. But I'll come back. You've taught me that, no matter how hard life gets, we have to stand up." Nia held Amina's hand tightly. It was a silent moment, where the understanding between them seemed stronger than any words. Musa, standing from a distance, watched their conversation. He knew that Nia wasn't just a gardener, but an important part of his daughter's life. He felt the change Nia had brought to Amina was immeasurable, and he decided to invite Nia once more before she left. "Musa, Nia, I want to thank you for everything you've done for our family. You've brought light into my daughter's life. If possible, please come back once things settle down." Nia smiled and nodded. "Nia, of course, sir. I promise I'll return. 3 months passed since Nia returned home to help her family. During that time, Amina had made significant progress. She began painting again with her left hand, still a little awkward, but each painting held a part of the intense emotions she couldn't express with words. Although she hadn't returned to her former self, she no longer felt trapped in sorrow. Musa also noticed a clear change in Amina. He no longer saw his daughter silently melancholy. Amina began attending painting sessions again, even deciding to hold a small exhibition right at the mansion. She painted about the vibrant garden Nia had created, about the beautiful moments of recovery and hope. Then, one morning, while Amina was sitting by the window, gazing at the flowers in the garden, she unexpectedly saw a familiar figure. She frowned, unable to believe her eyes. Standing at the door was Nia, the girl Amina had thought would never return. Amina with a surprised face. Nia? You've come back. Nia smiled, her eyes brightening. Yes, Amina. I've returned. Amina couldn't contain her emotions. She stood up from her wheelchair and walked toward Nia, her eyes filled with tears. Amina, I didn't know how much I missed you. I thought you wouldn't come back, but you really have returned. Nia gently held Amina's hand. I promised you I'd come back. My family is fine now. I've come back for you, for the garden, and for myself. I feel I need to continue this journey. Musa stood from a distance, watching the scene unfold, feeling as though a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He understood that Nia hadn't just brought freshness to the garden, but also strength and faith to Amina to continue her life. Musa stepped forward, his voice deep. Thank you, Nia. You've changed this entire family. Not just the garden, but also Amina. I can never repay you enough. Nia just smiled, saying nothing more, but her gaze spoke volumes. Amina no longer felt lost. Nia's presence had changed her life, not only physically but also mentally. She realized that sometimes life needs people like Nia, people who help us see the light in the darkness. The story emphasizes that sometimes it is the small things and the people around us that can help us overcome pain, opening up opportunities for rebirth and self-discovery.